Now next, I'm going to show you how to do a speed fill with a formula. And this is going to talk about something that's called the relative references. So these are going to be relative formulas. So at this point, let's say February is going to be a 10% increase over January. Mathematically, if I take any number and multiply it by 1.1, then it'll give us a 10% increase. So I'm going to start the formula with an equal sign, as always. Now I'm going to click on that 30,000. Remember from rule number 2. And it says cell C4. And then I'll say times, which is the asterisk, 1.1. So that means take the number that's in cell C4 and multiply it by 1.1. And you can see it gives us the result there of 33,000. If you think about it, 10% of the 30,000 would be 3,000. But when I add that back onto the 30,000, we get 33,000. That's really a 10% increase. Now, if we take a look at the formula there, I just double-click that cell. It says C4 times 1.1. Well, I want to go ahead and copy that right down the column. So watch what we'll do. We're going to move to that cell, and we're going to get the black cross right in the corner. You have to be right on the corner. The black cross is called the speed fill or the auto fill. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag it down to the rest of the numbers in that column. And let's see what happens. Each of those numbers is really a 10% increase over the previous number in column C. But let's take a look at the formula more importantly. I'm going to double click on this cell. And the formula says C4 times 1.1. That's the one we typed in. I'm going to double click on this cell. By the way, of course, the formula is also showing up in the formula bar, right? But if you double click on the cell, you see the formula there also. Now this one says C5 times 1.1. So it made that adjustment for me. That's called a relative formula because it changes relative to the cell. Try again. I'm going to double click on this cell, and it says C6 times 1.1. And I'm sure the next one says C7, and so on. So I was able to type in the formula one time up here, C4 times 1.1. Then when I got the black cross and dragged it down, it made those adjustments for me automatically. That's called a relative formula because it changes relative to the new cell. That's going to save you a lot of time. In most people's larger spreadsheets, it's hardly ever the case where you type in the formulas one by one. Whenever they can, they do that. They type in the top one and then drag it down or drag it to the right, and then it fills in those things for me. That's called a relative formula. Let's see another example of that. Let's say March is going to be a 10% increase over February, and April is going to be a 10% increase over March, and so on. So this is what I'll do. I'm going to highlight those cells with the white cross. See the white cross in the middle. Then we'll get the black cross in the corner, and I'm going to drag it over to the July column. Now each of those numbers is a 10% increase over the previous number, but let's see what happened to the formula. This one says C4 times 1.1. That's the one I typed in originally. This one says D4 times 1.1. This one says E4 times 1.1. Notice how it's always the cell to the left of the current cell. That's called a relative formula. So I was able to type it in one time. Then I can drag that formula down with the black cross. Then we can drag it across. And very quickly, our spreadsheet is filling in. All right, so that happens because of the relative formula. And it really helps you build your spreadsheet a lot quicker. Now, once you learn that technique, you're going to use it over and over again. The way we did this total a few minutes ago, we did the auto sum. So that one says sum C4 through C10. So I'm just going to click on that cell. We'll get the black cross in the corner, and we'll drag it over. And now each of those totals is there. So we see the pound signs for the Excel spreadsheet. Now, in this case, we're going to make all of those columns bigger at the same time. So I'll pick on letter D, and I'll highlight from letter D over to the June column, or to the July column. So they're all selected. And then I'll get the black cross between one of those columns and double click. And now that should have made the columns bigger, and you can see that it did. So the first total said sum C4 through C10. The second total says sum D4 through D10. It made that adjustment formula. That's called a relative formula. And the next one, I'm sure, says sum E4 through E10. So that was a really important part. I'm going to zoom back out for you so we can see the bigger picture. Now let's do another auto sum. Over here, I would like to get the row total. So I'm going to pick on the cell where I want my total to appear, and then we're going to use that same auto sum right there. Notice this time it says sum C4 through I4. So usually it guesses the right thing for you. Not all the time, but many times it does. When I hit the enter key, then it was able to get the row total for that row. And then I'm going to get the black cross again, right there, and then I'll drag it down. I'll even drag it down to row 11. And now I even have a grand total there as well. This one is 0 because if you think about it, there's nothing in that row. So when it see how it says sum C10 through I10. So I don't really need to see that 0. I can delete that with my delete key. So now we have a grand total as well. So typically we can get our column totals and our row totals with the auto sum that's under the home menu, as we can see. Now we have a pretty decent looking spreadsheet. Now I'm seeing that I don't have a total for the July column, so I'm just going to click on that cell and just drag it over with the black cross, and now we have a total there as well. Of course, I'll make that column bigger again. Anytime that we see the pound signs, it simply means we have to make that column bigger. And now we're looking pretty good.